Update 5.7 has brought us 6 new refines / weapons, but we'll be talking about 7 units today. You can spend your Divine Dew on Gerome, spend Catria, Dorcas, Fjorm, Gunnthra, and Female Grima along with legendary Female Grima. We do have a new ongoing feature this update, and it's confirmation that the legendary heroes are going to be getting refines. Previously, legendary Roma and Ike shared their weapons with their base versions, but this time Fjorm and Gunnthra proved that those weren't just special circumstances for legendary refines. As for legendary Female Grima, she is part of this month's remix buffs as well, so we'll talk about her newly upgraded skills with this new refine. We got a lot to cover with this update. First, we got Gerome, aka Batman. Gerome is the only unit here to get a new weapon, the Masking Axe. It's a 16-minute axe that is effective against cavalry foes, and if the foe initiates combat or has more than 75% HP, Gerome gets plus 5 attack and defense. Very basic, but attack and defense are Jerome's 2 best stats, and it only gets better. For the special upgrade, if Gerome is not adjacent to an ally, inflict minus 5 attack and defense on the foe. At the start of the turn, if Gerome is not adjacent to any allies, he also gains plus 6 attack and defense as a field buff for 1 turn. So altogether, Masking Axe has 4 effects: effective against Cavaliers, a sturdy stance type effect, in combat debuffs when solo, and then rouse attack and defense. For a heroic girl unit, this is not a bad weapon and refine. It's simple, but if you add everything together, Gerome can get plus 11 attack and defense, and he inflicts minus 5 attack and defense on the foe, so that could be seen as plus 16 attack and defense total, and plus 5 res on the side. Flyers cannot use rouse attack and defense, so that's quite a neat bonus for Gerome. He's a pretty typically slow unit with good attack and defense stats, and actually quite high base HP. His res is on the lower side, but at least he gets something to help with that from Masking Axe. Now, most importantly, he is a bit incentivized to have a solo type playstyle, since 2 of the effects are tied to being alone. That would definitely affect how he should be built. First, let's start with the basics. If you aren't investing in speed, quick riposte is a must for securing those 1-round KOs. Gerome actually can rack up the attack quite high and possibly one-shot squishy units, but having 2 hits is always safer. If you want to avoid specials, a tier 3 dual stance would be great, and sturdy or mirror stance 3 would be fine. The guy can focus on being quite the physical damage wall, but you can try to buff his res as well. Menace skills are pretty deadly, and even if you overlap field buffs, there are still strong options. You could go for attack and defense or defense and res menace. Gerome would benefit for the debuffs to stack with his in-combat ones, and if you run defense and res menace, you would at least get a res field buff instead. Attack and defense menace could also provide field buffs if Gerome is forced to stay with the team. Next, let's discuss solo skills. Double stacking 2 provides lots of stats for both phases, and you got tons of customization options. Because Masking Axe provides rouse attack and defense, we are free to run the coveted Rain C skills. More attack debuff stacking is fantastic. With these 3 slots, this is where Gerome can focus on speed and resistance. He does have a speed super boon, and more speed skills provide more player phase potential and reduces the chances of getting doubled by middling speed units. Masking Axe provides so much attack and defense that speed and res solo would be great as a seal, and you can choose what you want in the A slot. In general, because Gerome wants to be a somewhat alone, he may want to build more balanced or have utility skills. Distant counter is always fun, just watch out for arrows. Fortress defense and res and guard bearing can bump up his tanking power. The new catch skills are great, and Gerome can use attack and speed or attack and defense catch. If you want to go for a speed build, maybe speed and defense near trace can be nice if you want Kanto. To prevent healing, Fatal Smoke may be what you want, but any smoke debuffs are also pretty good. Since Gerome has a ton of HP, you could also run Panic skills. To be honest, this is a relatively simple refine, but it does open up some flexible build options. Either go all in on attack and defense, or you can spread the love to speed and resistance. Last thing I'll mention is that if you do go the speed route, you could use the new Flow Refresh B skill to get partial no follow up. That would allow Gerome to punch through slow Worry Fighter tanks on the player phase, and the guy has a lot of attacks, so it may be worth the effort. You can even combine it with an Impact A skill, but that's a lot of player phase focus. Next up is Catria, our seasonal refine for this month. She's a blue mage cavalier, and her Huginn's egg got a rework. Like Spring Sharena's refine, Huginn's egg will grant a flat +3 res, and at the start of the turn, if any foes have the highest attack or speed on the enemy team, inflict -7 attack or -7 speed on those corresponding foes. Also, at the start of combat, if the foe has more than 75% HP, grants +5 attack and speed during combat. So, Huginn's egg will now have chill attack, chill speed, and a +5 attack and speed boost. Seems familiar, and it's a support / combative weapon now. For the special refine, if Catria initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants +5 attack and speed and reduces damage from the foe's first attack by 30%. As you can see from Catria's stats, she is very squishy, and her attack and speed stats are pretty much her main focus. With this refined, Catria gets +10 attack and speed, which is great, and the 30% damage reduction can maybe keep her alive for tanking 1 counterattack. That is good, but obviously Catria is not going to be long-term tanking. Now, she will also provide chill attack and chill speed for your team. She has chill res by default, so you could run all 4 chill debuffs if you really wanted. Not sure if that's the best idea, but Spring Catria is going to have both offensive and support capabilities now. In terms of playstyles, well, there's really only one main combative way to go about it, and that's just a pure offensive player phase setup. So Sparrow, attack and speed solo, Blade Session, whatever attack and speed increase skills you can get. With the 30% damage reduction, where Praying Catria will be able to tank 1 counterattack, which should hopefully land her in desperation range. From then on, she can continue doubling other targets. Now unfortunately, the new Flow Refresh B skill cannot be used by ranged cavaliers. It basically would be made for units like Catria here if all you care about is getting that double with tons of attack and speed. If Catria faces a fall prevention skill, then you have to hope for a one-shot KO. If you're interested in multi-round combat, then low speed and res would be best. We also have a bar trace for Kanto, which can be utilized with the 30% damage reduction since she'll be alive hopefully. Maybe you could do a Fury and Wings and Mercy type setup. In terms of A skills, Tag Speed Catch is great for Catria since she does apply 2 debuffs. Last, if you would rather go for more support skills to stack with the chill debuffs, you could run the Rally plus Ruse combo. Catria can help her allies from the backlines, and she still has enough damage to get some knockouts herself. Overall, Spring Catria is kind of like a Winter Bernie or Reagan as a high tag and speed cavalier with damage reduction. She's basically going to explode without that protection though, so if you aren't running Desperation, then you pretty much cannot get hit more than once probably. If you need chill attack and chill speed, she does offer that, but if you want more support skills, then you're going to lose out on those combative power. Not the craziest refine, but you still need to be careful if you see a properly built Spring Catria. Our third unit is going to be Dorcas and his Stout Tomahawk. This is a distant counter weapon and didn't get any new base effects. For its special refine, if unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, inflict -5 attack and defense and neutralize foes bonuses during combat. So not a very complicated effect at all, not too surprising for a natural DC weapon. The refine effect is pretty much like low attack and defense but with more stat debuffs, and Dorcas neutralizes all field buffs including speed and res. It has a very strange condition since it's always active on the player phase, but for the enemy phase you do need to be near allies. Honestly, I think it should have been flipped, like how Gerome's weapon works. Dorcas even has a similar stat spread with low speed, so he's not really going to be initiating a ton, and DC doesn't do anything on the player phase anyway. It's inherently an enemy phase weapon. It's not a huge deal, but still pretty odd. As a unit, Dorcas will not change much at all really. He's still going to want to tank and spank, and the attack debuffs to benefit both of his defensive stats. If you've seen builds for a lot of slower units, Lows plus Quick Repulse is a great combo. You're always going to stop attack buffs, and you're going to take a little less damage while you get to counter back twice. For Dorcas, he can add a tier 3 dual stance for guard protection, and we have a myriad of defensive sacred seals, stances, forms, bonds, distant or close defense. Not a lot of fancy things going on here, unless you really would just want to build in all speed skills or something. Dorcas is just going to be that usual enemy phase distant counter tank. For some additional skills, you could try Unity or Bond for A skills. Instead of Guard, you could reverse debuff, so you could get rid of debuffs entirely. Steady Breath for extra cooldown reduction is great if you want to spam specials. For B skills, you probably want Quick Repulse somewhere, but if you take it as a Sacred Seal, then you could run Nullsea Disrupt or a Link buff, or maybe something spicy like Vantage or Wrath. For C skills, Strength Drive, Oats, or the Menace skills are great, maybe Attack Smoke too. Unfortunately, just not a lot of interesting things to talk about for Dorcas. He's a really simple distant counter tank. I think as a 5-star unit, he could have gotten like one more effect or something, maybe inflict speed debuffs as well, or maybe get access to guard or some kind of fall prevention. They are definitely playing it safe with some of these DC refines. Speaking of which, we have Fjorm and her Leiptr Lance, which is also a distinct counter weapon. For its refine, at start of combat, if Fjorm has more than 25% HP, grants +4 to all stats, neutralize stat penalties, and if the foe initiates combat, grant an additional +4 defense and res. So yeah, this is a bit more interesting for a DC weapon refine. Fjorm basically gets +8 defense and res when defending, and +4 attack and speed is actually nice since her stats are spread out evenly. Neutralizing stat penalties is also incredibly strong, as we will see for a later refine. Fjorm is going to be quite the DC tank with that extra bulk, and as a reminder, she already got her remix buffs for Ice Mirror 2. Essentially, it got bumped up to 40% damage reduction against ranged threats, and its increased damage is now based on Fjorm's res stat. An extra 8 res from the Refine is real nice for that. In general, Fjorm gets a nice stat boost for her DC tanking, and neutralizing debuffs is usually always good. However, with her remix buffs, the devs gave Fjorm attack and defense unity. Leiptr's Refine that neutralizes stat penalties stops attack and defense unity from reversing those debuffs because the debuffs are now gone. This is awful synergy, and it's like they just forgot they gave Fjorm this unity A skill. The Refine for Leiptr is perfectly fine, but you probably want to run another A skill, otherwise all you're going to get is plus 5 attack and defense. What is a better A skill choice is a tier 3 dual stance. You can tack on guard, and if you combine with a lull skill, you can also get rid of enemy field buffs. Basically, you could get 3 major defensive tools and a bunch of stats as well. What's better is that since Fjorm gets a huge plus 8 defensive res boost for free, you could look into investing in other stats like speed. Maybe you could go with Kestrel Stance 3, Swift Stance, or Steady Posture. Low attack and speed is great, and then we got Solo Sacred Seals as well. Fjorm does get far extra attack and speed, so she does have some more freedom if you don't want to go all in on the pure enemy phase quick repels tanking. That said, quick repels can be fine as well. Ice Mirror with Shield Pulse is Fjorm's base kit. Basically, it lets her pre-charge Ice Mirror at the start of the fight, and she'll reduce 5 extra damage when it procs. This is ideal since Fjorm can tank the first ranged hit and counter back immediately. If you run a Breath A skill or Bravely Sina type support, Fjorm can also recharge Ice Mirror on the counterattack, so if she does get hit twice, she can have Ice Mirror always ready to go. For this kind of standard distant counter tanking, the extra defense res from the Refine is great, but keep in mind Ice Mirror only works on ranged foes. I mentioned this when Fjorm had her remix banner, but if you want Fjorm to tank melee and ranged threats, then it may be better to just drop Ice Mirror and use another special instead. With this Refine, she can utilize those extra stats, and you have more A skill and B skill options. For example, Fjorm could run no follow up, or if you're going hard on speed skills, then maybe even a dodge B skill could work. This Refine is great for build options. The only weird thing is that non-synergy with the free Unity A skill she has. I'm not sure if the devs just didn't care or didn't plan ahead, or maybe there was a miscommunication somewhere. Next we have our third distant counter weapon, Expiration. It's on Fallen Male Grima and Legendary Female Grima. Male Grima is a green armored dragon with high attack and lower speed. Female Grima is a colorless flying dragon with a good balance of stats across the board, but is somewhat fast. She also got remix buffs this update. 2 very different units, so we'll talk about both a bit separately. Regardless, Expiration has the usual distant counter, but also adaptive damage against ranged threats, since it's a Dragon Stone. Now, for the special Refine, at the start of combat, if unit is above 25% HP, grants plus 4 to all stats, and inflicts guard on the foe. So, another rather simple Refine. We've had field buff neutralization for Dorcas, debuff neutralization for Fjorm, and the Grimas are going to get guard. In general, guard is great for DC users if you get doubled, since that can delay a special proc on the second hit. This can benefit both Grimas, but Female Grima also got a new Dragon Skill 2 A skill. She gets this for free, and it still neutralizes fly effectiveness bonuses. However, if the foe initiates combat or if the foe has more than 75% HP, she now gets plus 6 to all stats and neutralizes field buffs. Wowie, so Female Grima becomes a huge ball of stats. She basically gets plus 10 to all stats. She can use them on both phases, which is solid. Female Grima will continue to be a very flexible unit. She's fast, and she gets a bunch of side abilities as well. Now let's talk about Male Grima a bit more. So regarding builds and playstyles, he does come with Vengeful Fighter naturally, so that feeds into the enemy phase tank playstyle, and Grima will get his doubles and some cooldown reduction. It works fine with guard to avoid special procs, but Grima isn't super tanky, so you may want to add some defensive res increasing skills like Forge's defensive res. Basically, we need Grima to stay healthy enough to continue proccing Vengeful Fighter and Expiration's bonuses. You may want a healing special like Aether if you want a menace skill because they're fun. Dragons can utilize defense and res menace quite well. Not only does Grima like the plus 6 defense and res field buffs and the res debuffs, but with adaptive damage she can also use those defense debuffs as well. Not too bad on the synergy there. For Sacred Seals, pick your favorite stat booster. Now as an army unit, Male Grima has access to other fighter B skills. Crafty and Special Fighter both come with guards, so you may not want those, but Special Fighter's cooldown reduction is just too powerful sometimes. If you get Slick Fighter, Grima can neutralize penalties on himself, and Bold Fighter is great with his high base attack if you want to go on the offensive. For other skills, attack and defense ideal sure seems to work well on another armor unit, so why not? Another okay choice is a Breath A skill for the cooldown, and I'll come back to it a bit later. For the most part, Male Grima will mainly continue to do the same as before, but now with some extra stats, and he gets guard. Next we have Female Grima. To recap, with Dragon Skin 2 and this refine, she's gonna get +10 to all stats, guard, neutralize field buffs on the foe, negate flyer effectiveness, and she also got speed and res rain for free as part of the remix buffs. Pretty sweet deal for any kind of situation. With distant counter, Female Grima can fight archers, she's tankier against both damage types, and the speed boost is huge for mixed phase potential. With speed and res rain, Grima is even faster and deals more damage, so I think she's in a nice spot after these buffs. I would consider her kind of like Joshua as a jack of all trades, master of none, and that's further exemplified with her colorless typing. Just need to watch out for falchion weaponry. Now, B skills and secret skills are real flexible. I think Grima could use trade skills, but there's currently no good variants for dragons. Preferably we would like a attack and speed near trace, or speed and res near trace, or maybe attack and res too. If you would want to go on the offensive, Female Grima can run Desperation or Dive Bomb. Would have been a great candidate for Flow Refresh, but for some reason, dragons cannot use it. I really don't know why, since they can't use Gale Force either, but hey, maybe they'll get a dragon specific version like Dragon's Ire. For other skills, you could try Mystic Boost just for general healing. Otherwise, the Flyer Mobility skills are available too. Unlike Gerome, Female Grima doesn't have a problem sticking with the team, and she's a neat addition for a Flyer team as a colorless distant counter user who can also be quite fast. Honestly, reminds me a bit of Legendary Corrin. Alright, last let's talk about Dragon's Ire and Dragon Wall, the dragon specific B skills. So for Male Grima, Dragon's Ire is an interesting alternative because it's quicker post with partial no follow-up. It would allow Grima to always double except against actual no follow-up skills, but that's a weakness fighter skills also have. With Dragon's Ire, you could depend upon Grima's high base attack to finish off foes if you just want to get the one round KO. It's also not bad with steady breath type skills since Grima's gonna get that second hit off and hopefully proc a special or two. Now for Female Grima, Dragon's Ire isn't that amazing because she's already really fast. Flow Refresh would have been nice for doubling the player phase, but we can't do that, and Female Grima doesn't really need quicker posts. It's not bad if you're scared of fall prevention skills or if you're really committing to an enemy phase playstyle though. Next, what about Dragon Wall? Well, the Grimas don't have the high starting base res stats, so you're gonna have to work for those res comparisons, but it is an option if you're desperate for damage reduction. Male Grima would have to sacrifice that important base skill slot, but Female Grima is in a better spot. She does have a res super boon if you want, but more importantly, she gets +10 res from the Refine and Dragon Skin 2, and Speed and Res Rain is gonna inflict -4 res, which is actually gonna help with the res check. It's a bit sneaky, but you would still probably want more res increasing skills to handle actual tanks. Overall, we have two very different units with the same weapon. Female Grima has a bit more going on for her just because of her remix buffs with the same update. Male Grima is probably not going to change much unless you're already using one of the guard based fighter skills. I think if they wanted to make Male Grima a bit scarier, they could have neutralized either dragon effectiveness or armor effectiveness. Maybe that'd be a bit much. Alright, last unit for today is Gunnthra, and oh boy, this is some Fallen Edelgard level scary stuff. Before we get to Blizzard, you should know that Gunnthra already got her remix buffs for Chilling Seal 2, at start of turn inflict -7 to all stats on the lowest defense foe and inflict -7 attack and res on foes within 2 spaces of that lowest defense enemy. This is a massive debuffing skill. Some poor enemy gets completely blasted by -7 to all stats, but they also spread -7 attack and res around them, which is super strong for grouped up formations. This is important because Blizzard grants bonus attack equal to the total penalties on the foe. With -7 to all stats, that is +28 extra attack. With -7 attack and res, that's still +14 extra attack. However, Blizzard gets another base effect, which is that at the start of a combat, if the foe has more than 75% HP, inflict -4 speed and res on the foe. More damage for Gunnthra. It does not end there though. For the special refine, at the start of combat, if Gunnthra has more than 25% HP, inflict penalty on the foe's stats equal to 4 plus any current penalty on the foe's stats. Calculate each stat independently. Holy crap, Blizzard got the pledging effect, and this is the same refine as Mel Morgan technically. Someone on the dev team really must like Gunnthra because this is insane. Gunnthra already thrives on debuffs for more damage, but now she doubles those debuffs with in-combat stat penalties. Important to understand, the pledging effect or debuff doubler won't contribute to Blizzard's attack boost because these are in-combat debuffs. Regardless, this is crazy. If there were no debuffs on the enemy, Gunnthra would still inflict -8 speed and res on the foe. If they are hit with -7 attack and res from the debuffs, then this turns into -11 attack, -8 speed, -4 defense, and a whopping -15 res on top of Blizzard giving +14 attack. What the hell, man? If Gunnthra fights the foe with the full -7 to all stats, we're up to +28 attack, and then she inflicts -11 attack, -15 speed, -11 defense, and -15 res. If you do not neutralize stat penalties against Gunnthra, you are extra dunzo even more than before. So not only was Chilling Seal 2 already insane for Gunnthra, but this refine just pumps the craziness up. As mentioned, if the foe has any kind of -7 res debuff, that becomes -14 total, and you add another -8 from the base numbers. On top of the -7 res debuff, this is 15 extra damage. Really not a lot to change from Gunnthra's remix banner. Basically, Chilling Seal 2 does all the work, and you just want as much damage as possible to nuke foes into the ground. Attack and speed catch is actually perfect for Gunnthra because she's already relying on debuffs, and she's inflicting speed debuffs now, so Gunnthra can double possibly more enemies. Without speed debuffs, she already gets -8 extra speed, so tacking on more doesn't hurt. If you want more chaos, Tech and Res Menace is also great. It can help debuff the closest foes, and that's useful if the enemy team is spread out. Not to mention, more attack buffs for Gunnthra. For Sacred Seals, just slot in Death Blow, Blade Session, or maybe Heavy Blade to charge with Glimmer. Gunnthra is in a really good spot with the new skills this year. Now, if you're on a budget, she already has Attack and Res Solo 4 from the remix buffs. Unlike Fjorm, this is perfectly fine to keep. You just need to move away from the team when attacking. Otherwise, if you don't want to worry about position, you can run Death Blow or the Catch skills. Now, while more speed skills are fine, you can go for the defense and res route as well. Like other Pledgian weapons, Gunnthra is doubling the attack debuffs, and she applies those in an AoE. -7 attack plus another -7 plus another -4 is crazy. That's -18 attack total, which is more than enough even with Gunnthra's lowest defense and res. Cannot understate how insane this refine is in combination with Chilling Seal 2. If you want even more debuffs, reminder that panic does stack with stat penalties. If the enemy is debuffed and they're panicked, they are extra screwed, so you may want a panic enabler on your team, or you can run something like Panic Smoke. I don't think we need to continue on. Gunnthra wins again, and this is a certified disgusting refine thanks to Chilling Seal 2. That's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on these refines and what your plans are for these units. If you got Gunnthra, you better get this refine because Jesus Christ. I never got Gunnthra or Female Grima after all these years, so I'm pretty sad about that, but maybe I can get a lucky summon later. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow to talk about our second summer banner.